This video is on adding filters to our dashboard. Adding filters to a dashboard requires a little bit of pre-work before we can begin. This example, first example we're going to look at, we're looking at USA, Canada, and Mexico. Each of these countries has a particular value added to it. What we want to do is to be able to select a country and see the corresponding value shown on the dashboard alongside it. I'm going to bring in two different components into the dashboard. The first thing I want to bring in is a spreadsheet table to look at the data. And the second thing I'm going to bring in is what we call a selector. Now, a selector, all the selectors, for the most part, work the same way. They just have different interfaces. We have a combo box, which is just your basic drop-down menu. We have radio buttons, which will just allow you to select between three different or however many different options you want. And we also have a list box, which will show you all the different options you have and just allow you to click one. All of these different selector components do the exact same thing. It's just a different way of looking at the same thing. In this example, I'm going to use the drop-down combo box. Let me just delete these other two examples here. Now, in your Excel file, we need to have a destination for our selection. So what we're going to do is, when we select a particular country, which will be here in our A and B columns, we have rows 2, 3, and 4. When we select one of these, what we're going to do is we're actually going to move the data in Excel down here to row 7. So when I select USA, it's going to take this row of data and it's going to move it down here into row 7. If I select Canada from row 3, it's going to move that Canada row into row 7. And this is how we can filter data and move it around in our dashboard. So the first thing I'm going to do is set up the spreadsheet table that we've added. So for the display data, I'm going to add rows 6 and 7 here. And showing the country and amount. And now I'm going to come over here to our combo box, or our drop down, and set this up to look at our data. Now, you can add a title if you want to. In this example, we'll just leave the title blank. We'll come over here to labels. For our labels, we're going to look at the 3 different countries, USA, Canada, and Mexico, A2 through A4. Click OK. And now let's come down here to data insertion. There's no need to change the series name because the series will not be visible. You can do it for your own personal upkeep of the dashboard. So if I wanted to, I could change series name. I'm going to keep it the same for now. The next thing we see is insertion type. If we look at the drop down here, we can look at the different insertion types. The first one is position. What that means is if I choose the first row, it will give me a value of 1. If I choose the second row, it will give me a value of 2. The second thing I see is label insertion type, which means if I choose USA, the output of that will be USA. If I choose Mexico, the output of that will be Mexico. What I want to choose is row. What that means is if I choose USA, it'll take that entire row, however many columns I specify, and it'll move that entire row of data down into my destination. And that's what we want to use here. So once we choose that, we see source data. For the source data, I'm going to choose columns A and B, and I'm going to choose those 3 rows. So I'm choosing A2 through B4. And that corresponds with my labels of A2 through A4. Now it's going to ask for destination. My destination is column A and column B in row 7. And once we start adding filters and we're moving data around in our dashboard, I like to color code my data in the dashboard. That allows me to, whenever I'm editing the dashboard, especially if somebody else is going to come behind me and look at my Excel file in my dashboard, it will be able to understand how I've set it up a lot easier if it's color-coded. And if I need to make changes, having it color-coded will allow me to see where my parameters are in the Excel file. So it's just a good rule of thumb to color-code the sections where your data is being put. Now that I've set this up, whenever I make a selection of a particular country in this drop-down, it's going to insert that value into this country's spreadsheet table right next to it. I'm going to do one other thing before we start, and that's go over here to the Behavior tab. And under the Comment section, it says Selected Items, and we're choosing Labels. And under Item, it says No Selection. We notice now we don't see any countries listed when we're looking at our drop-down menu. If I want to, I can have it to always go with the first selection, which in this case is USA. Now that I've set that up, I'm going to click the Preview tab and see how this works. So notice now that I see USA, I see in the spreadsheet table that it has the country is USA and the amount for the USA, which in this case is 47. I can drop down my list of countries and choose Canada. Now notice that my spreadsheet table is showing data for Canada, which has the amount of 35. Again, if I go to Mexico, I see the value of 27 for Mexico. So what this is doing is taking the row that I've selected from my drop-down menu, and it's moving that to another area of the Excel file underneath this dashboard, and it's displaying that location. And this is how we set up filters in our dashboard.